For this video, we're going to look at a bit of an odd one, and we're going to look at counting the data in the table. So we'll want to count the data inside that table, and it's a bit of an odd method because we were going to look at reading data, but we'll look at that one next, because after that we'll go into designing the form and having a usable program for a user. So it's just an off topic. You can skip this one if it's not needed and go straight on to the reading, but this is just a bit of a side piece here. So let's make a public void as normal. Or sorry, a public integer, because you want to return an integer. And we're going to call this count. Entries. Or you can call this whatever you want. And we're going to take in a string as normal of database. Sorry, no, let's take in table. We don't need database for this. So from here, we're going to open a connection as normal. We're going to set the command to equal, sorry, not the command text, the connection to equal connection. And then we're going to set the command text and then we're going to, this is where it slightly changes. So we're going to have an integer, and let's call it count. And you don't exactly have to do this, you can return it straight away, but it's better to do this so you can close the connection first, once you have this number, and then return it, because otherwise you'll cause some problems later on when you try and access that table again. So we're going to have a count, and we're going to equal that number, and we're going to convert it to an integer. So we're doing it in the form integer, and we're going to do command.execute a scalar. So since it's a scalar number, and then we can close the connection, and finally return count. So again, the reason we're not returning this value straight away is because it's better to close the connection first, otherwise you'll have to close the connection another way, which isn't very easy outside of this class, because we want to keep it kind of self-isolated in this. So if we run this now, it's a nice simple method and should let you, if we do server.count entries, and we want to do the table of server.tablename, and now this should give us a value of how many entries are in here. So let's quickly grab this and do message box.show, and now we can put this value in here and do it to string. So it will give us an idea of how many values are in the table. So if this works correctly, it should give us an integer of 2, because there's 2 values in this table. So if we run this, and something went wrong, if we have a look at this, sorry, yes, we've actually got to put the command text in. No good skipping over that. So for this, we want to do select. So it selects the values, and we want to do count as the count function. Now, if we do brackets and a star, it means selecting all of them. So we're counting all the values in this table, and we want to do from, and then we do the table name. So now we just do table. So it will count, it will select all the values and count them. So it will select all the values and count them. And that will return an integer because we're executing it as a scalar. So now if we run this, it did not work. If we look at y, let me have a look. Okay, so the problem has been fixed. So since we're not doing a direct connection up here and we're just doing a local host connection, you never actually define the database as such, it's just master. So here, if you change table from just table to how we've done it before, because we're doing a from function, and do database.dbo and then the table, it will now look for that table within that database. So if you're doing a direct connection, you don't actually need to do this, because if you're connecting directly with the database, like this, where you're defining the catalog here as the database. However, since we're doing a local host connection at the moment, that never gets properly defined. So if we do the database, the table, and just take in a value of database, same as how we've done all the others. So server.database, server.table name, and now if we run this, you get a value of 2 back, which is correct. We've got 2 entries in the database. So let's go to here, and here we have 1 and 2. So 2 entries. So it counts how many entries are there. So that's it for this one. Nice simple video on this. Just going over how to count. The next one will be going over actually reading data from the database. So this is when it starts to get into reading what values are there and converting it into something that we can use in C#.